number of the principles relating to employment law. The difference between a at-will employee and a contract employee, or let me put it this way. A person is an at-will employee unless what?
Contracted.
Unless one, he has a contract, right? So that means that a person can be what? If a person is at will, that means what?
They can be fired.
He can be fired for what reasons?
Any reason?
No reason.
No reason
And good reason.
or good reason. And if he's fired for bad reason, then what?
Then that cannot.
He has a claim, right? He has a claim. However, again, a person is a at-will employee unless what? So he can be fired for no reason unless what?
You have a contract.
He has a contract, right? And if he's fired for, what constitutes a bad reason? What are the couple of reasons? What are a couple things that will constitute a bad reason that will allow that person to recover?
Whistleblower.
One is if he's a whistleblower. That goes to the issue of what? What policy? Public policy, right? What's another bad reason based upon what we discussed before? A tort. An example of a tort is what? What's an example of a tort? Right. Fraud or misrepresentation, right? So telling somebody you're going to hire them, and then they move, and they leave a lucrative job, and then you told them they're going to be hired, and they're going to have a secure position, and then they leave a lucrative job, a stable job, and then when you know that in fact that there's some basically likelihood that the company's going to fold the next week, and then they leave their company, they go and join you, and then that company folds. Well, there's again a claim of misrepresentation and fraud because you didn't disclose to them what you knew was getting ready to take place, right? Another tort that we talked about based upon the recent news is what? Huh?
Sexual harassment?
Exactly, sexual harassment, right?
Yeah.
Assault. What time?
8%.
Thank you. Assault. An assault, either a sexual assault, a physical assault, or verbal assault, that would constitute a tort. And the torts, again, would provide somebody, if they're fired as a result of tortious conduct that the employer is taking, and they can recover under the theory of what? What's the theory that they can cover under? Mr. Copeland, if you're going to sue somebody based upon your termination, what is your claim going to say? What is your complaint going to say to you? Your lawsuit will claim that what? That you were what?
Your contractor.
If you were terminated and you file a lawsuit based upon one of the things that we discussed, the bad causes that we discussed, right? Mr. Calloway, see you just arrived, a little late. Give me an excuse, sir. But 8:12 you came in? All right. So tell me, what would you put in your lawsuit? What would your lawsuit state? You would file an action for what? action for what? What would you file? Help this screen. What would you state in your lawsuit?
Under tort theory,
No,
wrongful discharge.
you will bring a wrongful discharge action.
Yeah.
You will file a lawsuit, and in that lawsuit, you will claim that you were wrongfully discharged on the basis of perhaps tort or public policy. But the action will be a wrongful discharge action. That's the key, all right? Thank you, Ms. Green.
So the other gentleman there, give you some additional opportunities.
So, what are the 3 key laws that govern workers, federal laws that govern workers? Mr. Calloway.
Child labor, minimum wage.
The three key laws that govern, federal laws that govern workers' rights.
Okay, one, the Davis-Bacon Act.
The Davis-Bacon Act, all right? And you tell me, what is the Davis-Bacon Act?
Requires contractors and subcontractors working on federal government construction projects to pay prevailing wages to their employees.
Did we talk about this last class?
We did.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, I think we did. We talked about the Davis-Bacon,
Yeah.
the Walsh-Healy Act, the Fair Labor Standards Act, right? We talked about the federal minimum wage, right?
Yes.
We stopped at OSHA.
And we
passed OSHA.
I think we were.
We're under
We
Social
passed OSHA,
Security.
exactly.
Yeah.
So now we're dealing with income security,
Yeah.
particularly Social Security, all right? So now, tell me, what is the law that guarantees some payment of disability and old age retirement benefits, as well as benefits to people who die? I'm sorry, benefits to the survivors, meaning the husbands or wives or children of people who die after reaching a certain age. What is the act, Mr. Calloway?
Occupational Safety and Health Act.
Something, Mr. Copeland, something that again is reflected in all of our payrolls. If you have received a payroll, you always see some deduction based upon this act. What act are we talking about, Mr. Copeland? The Social Security Act, all right? Tell me about the Social Security Act, Mr. Copeland. What does it provide for?
Let me see. That was just high.
Social Security Act provides for old age survivors and disability insurance. The act is therefore often referred to as OASBI. Both employers and employees must contribute under the Federal Insurance Contributions Act to help pay full benefits that will partially make up for the employee's loss of income on retirement.
All right. So what is the so how does this work, Mr. Calloway? How does the Federal Insurance Contribution Act, how does that play in the context of employees' wages?
How does it play?
Yeah, how does it work? How does it manifest itself?
That an employee withholds the employee.
You said the who? Who withholds it?
Employer.
The employer withholds, right? We all see that withholding in our checks, right? And what else happened?
Withhold the employee FICA contribution from the employee wages and then matches this contribution.
Exactly. And then what, in terms of the, what is the annual wage base? What happens to that?
Annual wage base is adjusted each year as needed to take into account the rise cost of living. In 2013, employers were required to withhold 6.2% of each employee wages up to a maximum wage base of $113,700 and to match this contribution.
So, what is the current withholding? What is the current withholding, Mr. Copeland? It's not in the book. What's the current withholding? The current wage withholding. Does anybody have a copy of their checks online? They can see.
Is it 6.2%?
It was 6.2% in 2013. Is that still the case?
That's how I'm getting checked.
Pardon me?
I'm getting checked.
You don't get any checks?
I'm actually about
Master Barber, okay. That's great. Is it still 6.2%, Ms. Green?
I'm looking it up.
Who knows? The current withhold, and you know, it's funny because a lot of people just, you know, money is withheld. They don't even know why the money is
So
withheld.
FICA is still 6.2.
Still 6.2. Okay,
Yeah.
great. So now you know why that FICA is withheld. And it says that the annual wage base is adjusted each year, but that's not all the time. And I think that has to do with the cost of living adjustment, or the COLA, which is made actually as a result and through pension payments as well for veterans. But this is something that we're going to talk about a little bit later in terms of the cost of living adjustment. All right, so we got through Social Security with your help primarily, Mr. Callaway, so you can have a seat. Mr. Copeland, tell me about what is the federal government program that is used to reimburse physicians for treating the elderly.
The private friendship place?
I'm sorry. Let's go back to Social Security. This is a good question. 1 second. How old do you have to be, Mr. Callaway? Going back to you. How old do you have to be before you start collecting Social Security benefits?
65?
Is that what the book says?
No, you said in the book.
No, it's not in the book. I'm asking you.
Oh,
Where are you going? Why did you come up with 65? Huh?
you said, why did I come up with it?
Yeah, I'm saying, is it in the book or not? Is it in the book? Not in the book.
No, right.
You said 65 though.
Right.
You know that for a fact, or I'm just asking?
No, it's not that.
What is it based upon? What's that based upon?
Say again.
What is it? What's your knowledge based upon?
What is my knowledge based upon? That's what the Social Security office tells me.
I told you.
No.
65. What does the internet say?
67.
67.
No, that would,
I thought it
it's
said
70 now.
70.
Is that how
It
to?
is nice.
Can you look? Look
No,
online.
it's 70.
What does it say?
I have people.
Look
who are
online.
70 and they just
I'm not
got
asking
their
about
Social
you know people.
62.
62. What does it say, Miss Samay?
When was that?
So you have been waiting for 65, and you lost 3 years, Doc.
The earliest the person can start receiving Social Security retirement benefits will remain age 62. Age 62, you will get 75% of the monthly benefit because you will be getting benefits for an additional 48 months. That's what the internet says.
So again, you're going to be starting to be 75% starting at 62,
Yeah.
but you get 100% starting at 65. Is that what it is?
Yeah.
825.
Thank you. All right. So again, these are some of the key things that you want to know about, not necessarily. And let me ask you about this. When can you get survivor's benefits? How do you get survivor's benefits?
I don't know. I'm not that far yet in the book.
How do you get survivor's benefits? So if anybody's parents die, does that mean that they get survivor's benefits? How do you get survivor's benefits, Mr. San?
It says here that a funeral home should report it to Social Security, and from there, they should inform the family. And then
I'm asking you two things. What? One, if anybody's parents die, or if anybody's husband or wife dies, do they qualify for survivor's benefits under the Social Security Act? Or if not, what must happen? What are the qualifications? What are the qualifications for somebody to get Social Security benefits as a survivor?
proof of death.
For proof of death. So anybody whose parents die, you telling me get Social Security benefits?
Not necessarily, no.
Exactly not. So tell me, look online, tell me what, pardon me? I'm not asking you to guess, I'm asking you to look. Tell me, what is the requirement for someone to get Social Security benefits, Mr. Calloway or Mr. Copeland? What is the requirement? If a person doesn't start receiving Social Security benefits, income Social Security benefits, until they're how old?
6.
So what must a person who is a survivor of someone, what must they state in their application for the benefits?
Sitting over 62?
Oh, guess. What is that they can't, do they have to be over 62?
It's a due benefits as early as the age of 60 or full benefits at full retirement age. Say as early as 50.
So what is as early as 50? So the person who's receiving them must be 50 years old? What does it say, Mr. May?
So, well, it first says, upon the death of a spouse, you are eligible for a Social Security survivor benefit as long as you have been married for at least 9 months.
So if one, you have to have been married for 9 months.
And then also it says you can collect a monthly survivor benefits as early as age 60, but at this age you will only receive about 70% of the amount you could get if you wait until your survival full retirement age.
So you have to be at least 60, right? How about the other person? How old they have to be? There's no age requirement for the other person?
Come on for the child.
No, for the person who died.
Oh, it says you can collect at any age if you are caring. Okay, no, that's for a child.
So, but the child is what?
It says if you are caring for a child of the deceased spouse who is under the age of 16. So I guess the child.
So if you have a child with somebody, and the spouse, does the spouse have to be a certain age before you start collecting the deceased spouse?
It doesn't.
It does say,
I guess you just have to be married.
What does it say?
it say your widow who has not remarried can receive survivor benefits at any age if they take care of your child who is under.
No, that's what she said. I'm asking you, the person who died.
It doesn't
So the person who died, do they have to be 60 or above?
It doesn't say anything.
So really, so the benefit here is turning on the age of the survivor, right? So if the survivor is 60 years of age, or if the survivor, as you said, any age, so long as they're caring for a child who is 16 and below. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah.
That's interesting. This is something, a benefit that some of you all could very well find yourselves requiring. Now, let me ask you this: is it only for a spouse, or is it for?
It says,
I'm sorry.
yeah,
It's only for a spouse
it's a widow.
and a widow. Okay. So again, you know, some of you guys get married, and your husband or wife dies, and I still thought, and again, this is news to me. I thought the decedent had to be a certain age, and I thought that they had to be actually collecting Social Security benefits themselves. But if you're saying that that's not the requirement right now,
Well, according to the Social Security Administration website, it doesn't say anything about
it doesn't
that.
say anything about the decedent. So again, interesting thing to note, and what we'll do is we'll take a look at you know the requirements, or maybe make that a part of the. In fact, let's make that a part of your extra credit. What I want to do is have you all, as part of your extra credit, to go online and apply or pull down an application for the Social Security benefits, and describe for me again, particularly the survivor's benefits, what you had to submit as a part of that application process. All right. Of course, you won't submit it because you know that would be a commission of fraud. But pull it down, and submit it to me on Blackboard as if I'm the Social Security Administration. All right.
Wait, when you said the second part where you said look at the application and.
So just do it, basically.
Pull down the application, right? Pull down the application, and you pretend that you're submitting it to the Social Security Administration, but you're going to be submitting it to me on Blackboard, and give me the same information that you would put in. And you can make up, you know, the information again, because again, you're pretending to be a surviving spouse, right? Another question is again, what about?
835.
Thank you. Are there any benefits for children of parents who die at a certain age? That's another question I want to ask you to research for us as well. All right.
Can we get these as links?
Well, will you be able to get them? You can look them up as like you'll get a Blackboard instruction on the Blackboard. You'll have instruction. You'll have to go and just Google it yourself. It's pretty easy to find now, right? Let's now go. So we talked about Social Security. So again, Mr. Calloway, you can have a seat. We were still talking with you, Mr. Copeland. Medicare. Explain to me Medicare, Mr. Copeland.
Medicare is the federal government health insurance program administered by Social Security Administration for people 65 years of age and older. And for some under age 65 who are disabled, it originally had two costs, one pertaining to hospital costs and the other for non-hospital medical costs, such as visits to physicians' office.
So again, you had two parts generally. I think you had Part A, Medicare Part A, that dealt with hospital costs, and then you had Part B, which dealt with costs to physicians. But then they've created another part, which is called Part C, which deals with expenses relating to pharmaceuticals, all right? Tell me about the idea of how you pay for Medicare.
Medicare now offers additional coverage.
No, I said, tell me how Medicaid is paid for.
Well, you got the state that pay for it. You got yourself.
Pardon me?
I was trying to read it.
No, you weren't reading the right information, sir. Miss,
Like Social Security, Medicare is funded by contributions from the employer and the employee.
okay, so again, it's paid for through what, Mr. Copeland?
Contribution.
Exactly. So if you, as a barber, you are, again, working, and are there any Medicare withholdings coming out of your check?
No.
No. So there's no Medicare withholding. So you may find yourself perhaps somewhat lacking in terms of, well, that's the question. Let me ask you this. What about a person who does not have, like Mr. Copeland, what about a person who does not have any income that they're paying? Are they getting withheld, rather, and they don't have an employer who is contributing? What happens to that person? Mm-hmm. So normally, let me ask, normally what amount is coming out of your wage for Social Security as of 2017? What?
6.2 for Medicare.
6.2%, right? Of all wages, right?
And 1.4.
And I'm sorry, no. You saying, are you looking at the book or are you looking online? Because I'm asking online.
6.2.
Online.
6.2%
Yes.
for Medicare?
No, you just asked about social, not Medicare.
You didn't ask for Medicare yet.
No, we were talking about what Medicare here.
Medicare is one.
Is Medicare,
1.45 Medicare.
and is that what's online or is that?
It's online.
Okay,
Yeah.
so 1.45 is what is being deducted for Medicare, right?
The book is correct.
So the question is what happens to people who don't have any, who don't have withholdings? What happens to them? People in Mr. Copeland's case, what happens to them?
Self-employed person, pay both the employer and the employee portion to the Social Security benefit tax.
And so how much is required, how much you required to pay of your total income, Mr. Copeland, as a result of you not getting any withholdings?
Mm-hmm.
2.9%.
What?
I mean, if they the employee rate, I assume that would be the percentage.
840.
Thank you. It says that 6.2% is withheld for, so again, 6.2% for Social Security, 1.45% for Medicare, for combined.
15.3.
In addition, all wages and salaries above 113 with tax at a combined rate of 2.9% for Medicare. However, self-employees pay both employer and employee portions of the Social Security and Medicare. So again, from the reading, if the employer and employee each paid 7.65% of the first 113,000. So again, it's 7.13, it's 7.65. But the question is for a combined total of 15.3. Oh, okay, gotcha. So what it is 15.3%. Because each paid 7.65. So if you, and I'm in the same boat myself, because I work for myself, I have a law firm, and our law firm, what I'm required to pay at the end of the year is a percentage of my income for tax. Now some, like for example, the work that I'm doing here at Blue State, those taxes are taken out. But for Medicare and Social Security, because the firm doesn't take those out, that money I'm obligated to pay. And now, in fact, I did not even calculate up until now, so I'm glad we are going through this exercise. is 15.3%. Now I know exactly why that is such a high cost every year. Thank you now, Mr. Copeland. You can have a seat.
Wait, that's
He
for
thinks he's mad at the tax man.
For a year.
He been upset at the tax man.
So tell me now about private pension plans, Miss Hodge. What are private pension plans? What are private pension plans, Ms. Hodge?
The major.
I'm asking you, what is a private pension plan? What is a pension plan? When you think about a pension plan, what do you think of?
I think they'll take the money out of it.
And in order for you to do what? In order for what to happen?
For the employees or
What do you think of? They take the money out your check in order for what? Where does that money go?
Is it for retirement?
Exactly. So what happens with that money that's taken out?
It's not that, right?
Well, there's some tax implications. You're right. And again, the president's new tax proposal is calling for some adjustments to that. But what generally happens to them?
We mean like it's automatically taken out.
It's taken out, and then what happens to it?
It's withheld from their.
It's withheld. That's taken out. What happens to that money?
They need it back after a certain age.
They withhold that money in order for you to be able to get that money back after you reach a certain age, right?
Yeah.
So, what happens in the meantime? Well, tell me about, while you're thinking about that question, tell me about the statute that regulates private pensions. What is it?
It's 845.
Thank you.
It's the Employee Retirement Income Security Act.
And what is its provisions governing?
It's provisions governing employers who have private pension funds for their employees, for their employees.
And who enforces that?
By the U.S. Department of Labor.
And what did that act create?
It creates a pension benefit
Guarantee
corporation and an independent federal agency to provide timely and uninterrupted payment of the voluntary private pension benefit.
If what happens?
The pension plan pay annual insurance premiums to the PBGC, when then pays benefits to participants in the event that a plan is unable to do so.
So again, it's like an insurance plan, right? This pension benefit guarantee corporation, right, requires that all companies who have a private pension benefit pay an annual insurance premium, right? It's almost like your insurance premiums for your car, right? So you have to pay they make an annual payment. And the reason why they make that annual payment is because this agency does what?
Does not require an employer to establish a pension plan?
No. The agency guarantees, so again, if you have a company, let's say going back to you have a company, you start paying your employees benefits, and as a part of their benefits, you create a pension plan, right? And your pension plan, you're withholding, you're taking out money for their pensions. You're putting it into a bank account. Maybe you put it into an account that is invested as a pension account. But what happens if your company goes bankrupt? if it goes out of business, what happens to that pension that has been withheld from the employees? Oftentimes, what happens is that creditors raid that, or maybe the company as a some of the creditors might be the employees or the senior executives of the company. Maybe they raid that for them to be paid. But the point is that oftentimes that money is gone. And so again, what the Pension Benefit Guarantee Corporation is, as its name describes, is it guarantees that pension will be there so long as, again, these annual insurance payments are made. And that's what it's all about, all right? So tell me, when do you actually, what does ERISA, what does it not require?
It does not require an employer to establish a pension plan.
So, but what does it require?
When a plan exists, ERISA provides standards for its management. ERISA also imposes detailed record keeping and reporting requirements.
And so, when do the rights for pensions vest under ERISA? And what is vesting? So vesting, I'll tell you, vesting is the legal right to receive the pension benefits after you've worked for a certain amount of time. So when does, under ERISA, when do pension benefits vest?
30 years.
What?
Wait, what? When does it invest?
Under ERISA, again, in some cases before, you could have worked 30 years and still not have had your pension rights vest. Under ERISA, what is now the...
After 5 years employment.
No.
No, immediately.
What's that, Mr. Willis?
Generally, however, all employees' contributions to a pension plan vest immediately, and the employee's rights to the employer's contributions vest after 5 years of employment.
Exactly.
So this is probably one of the most important chapters of two chapters of this semester. So we're gonna stay in on this chapter here, but we're gonna give you a couple of extra credit homework assignments. One, as I said before, you're going to have to apply or simulate an application online for the Social Security benefit. You're also going to have to simulate online application for Medicare benefits. All right. So those are the two extra credit opportunities. Anybody who needs to check the grades, I just found out.